The phone rang while rain hammered the windshield like it was trying to break in. 3 hours earlier, I'd been standing barefoot on the porch, soaked through, my jacket still hanging on the hook behind the door. Now I was in my car, engine off, listening to the storm breathe. The caller ID said unknown. I didn't answer right away. I already knew something was wrong. When I finally lifted the phone, the voice on the other end didn't introduce itself. It didn't need to. "Sir," the man said, measured and careful, "we need to ask you a few questions about what happened at your house tonight." The word house landed wrong. It scraped. I watched rain slide down the glass, each drop racing the next, like they were trying to escape something. I wondered which one would make it first. I wondered why my hands weren't shaking. "Before we continue," the officer added, hesitating now, "can you confirm where you've been for the last 3 hours?" I told him. Silence followed. Long, heavy. Then he exhaled. "They froze," he said quietly. When they heard, I closed my eyes. 17 years. That's how long I'd been married before I was thrown out into a storm over a lie that wasn't even well told. It started with screaming. Not the wild kind. The controlled kind. The kind that's been rehearsed. "You don't belong here anymore." My wife's voice cut through the living room like glass. She didn't look at me when she said it. She was staring at the staircase, at her daughter. My stepdaughter stood there with her arms wrapped around herself. Mascara streaked, breathing too fast. She wouldn't meet my eyes. She didn't have to. The story had already been told. I remember thinking how small she looked, how practiced. "What did you do?" my wife asked me. Not "did you?" What did you... I felt something shift inside me. A slow click, like a lock engaging. "I didn't," I said. She laughed. A sharp, broken sound. "Don't lie." I looked at my stepdaughter then. Really looked. Her lower lip trembled on command. Her shoulders shook. She nodded, just once, like she was confirming a script she'd memorized. "He came into my room," she whispered. "He said things." The room tilted. 17 years of marriage. 14 years of raising her. Late nights helping with homework. College applications. Panic attacks. Trust. All reduced to a sentence spoken into the air like poison. "Get out!" my wife screamed. "Get out of my house. You don't belong here anymore." I waited. For doubt. For a question. For hesitation, none came. I walked to the door, barefoot, rain already leaking in under the frame. Behind me, I heard the deadbolt slide home. I didn't look back. I sat in my car for a long time after that, watching the house through sheets of rain. Lights on upstairs. Shadows moving. My wife comforting her daughter. I didn't feel anger yet. I felt something colder. Because this wasn't sudden. It wasn't chaos. It was too clean. The accusation arrived fully formed. No confusion. No disbelief. Just immediate certainty. Immediate expulsion. That's when I started replaying things. The distance in my wife's eyes the past year. The locked phone. The late nights at work. The way my stepdaughter had started. Looking at me differently. Measuring. Calculating. And the night, 2 months earlier, when I'd overheard a whisper on the phone. My wife's voice. Low. Intimate. "I'll handle him," she'd said. I didn't confront her then. I started preparing. The next morning, I didn't call a lawyer. I didn't go to the police. I didn't even go home. I went to a clinic. The nurse asked why I needed a DNA test. I told her the truth. I want to know who my wife's been protecting. A week later, I hired a private investigator. Quiet, expensive, precise. Phone records, deleted messages, hotel receipts. I moved through my days like a ghost. Calm on the surface, smiling when necessary. Inside, everything was sharpening. I learned that my wife had been seeing someone for 3 years. A colleague. Married. Younger. I learned that the nights she worked late aligned perfectly with his business trips. And I learned something else. Something that made my breath slow. My stepdaughter wasn't lying to protect herself. She was lying to protect her mother. Because she'd seen them together. Because she'd threatened to tell. Because my wife had chosen a solution. Erase me. The DNA results arrived on a Tuesday. I wasn't her father. I never had been. Another secret. Another layer. Everything made sense now. I didn't confront them immediately. I waited. I let my wife file a report. I let her cry to her friends. I let the lie harden. Then I handed my lawyer everything. The messages, the receipts, the DNA, and the PI's final report. The timeline was immaculate. When the police called me that night, the storm night, I told them where I was. They went quiet because they'd just spoken to my wife. And she'd told them I'd stormed out in a rage. They'd believed her until they saw the evidence. They came to me the next day, not with cuffs, with apologies. My wife was being questioned. My stepdaughter, too. The investigator told me my wife had broken down. When they mentioned the DNA, that she'd asked how I could do this to her. I didn't respond. I sent one message. Check your email. Attached were the reports. All of them. No commentary. No emotion. Just truth. I never saw her again. I heard about the fallout through others. The charges. The divorce. The affair exposed. The daughter's story collapsing under pressure. I heard she asked where I was, if I'd ever forgive her. I changed my number. 17 years ended in rain and silence. I didn't get my house back. I didn't want it. What I got was something cleaner. Clarity. Because when the lie finally broke, and they froze in the presence of truth, I realized something as I walked away. I hadn't lost my family that night. I'd escaped a prison I didn't know I was in.